Brilliant. Thank you everyone for coming along. Hopefully I can provide you with a little bit of an insight into egg production and what I've found from my travels around the world. Hard to follow Sarah. She was absolutely brilliant and extremely informative. So first thing I'd love to do is say a couple of big thank yous. First of all, Australian Eggs. Gemma's come and joined us from Australian Eggs here. So thank you to Australian Eggs for all their support of the Nuffield program over the years. Nuffield Australia, of course. I was lucky enough to be selected. Nuffield, a brilliant organisation and extremely appreciative to have this opportunity. Biggest thank you of all, my family. As was recently was introduced, I am the General Manager of the Mac Egg Group. It's owned by the Verstetten family, who've been producing eggs in Victoria for the past 60 years. They're now in their 4th generation, so they do know a thing or two about egg production. We farm around, it's actually closer to 600,000 birds now across the 3 systems, barn, cage and free range. And our marketing model is quite simple. We pretty much put 50% into our brand and 50% we contract manufacture for Pace Eggs. We basically act as Pace Victoria. So you would have seen Pace Eggs on the supermarket shelves. That's us in Victoria. So I wanted to just make some quick observations about our industry. I'm actually really proud to be part of this industry. It's fantastic. There's a lot of really fantastic, passionate people, and I think, really proud to be part of it. One of the things that I have observed in our industry, it's not just in the egg industry, but in broader agriculture, often the people who speak the loudest don't speak for the broad industry. I'm just going to let that one sink in for a minute. We have interest groups in our industry in particular that often they're only speaking for very, very small percentages of the producers that they claim to be representing. We as an industry, we're very, very willing to invest in emerging and established markets. There's a lot of investment. We're at a bit of a juncture at the moment. We as an industry have significant investment in cage systems, and there's a lot of issues at the moment around legislation. There's a lot of movements to ban cage systems. There's been investigations, there's been all sorts of stuff. We don't know where it's going to land. So at the moment, the industry's in a little bit of turmoil as to what direction to go into. Now, we have, from a scientific and historical standpoint, we do know that cages do produce the cleanest, the most efficient eggs available, but our consumers are looking for something different. So we, as producers, pretty much have to give our consumers what they want. So we are kind of at a bit of a juncture at the moment. So we are, we're in a pretty tough position. We are aware that free range has been largely misrepresented to our customers as being the best outcome for welfare for the bird, all that sort of thing. We as producers know that that's generally not the case, but it really hasn't been probably effectively communicated to our customers. Now, on the back of free range, as we move and transition more into free range, I just want to bring a little bit of attention to something that happened in 2015. Is anyone familiar with the avian influenza outbreak that happened in the US? Yeah, you would be. So avian influenza, it's pretty much bird flu. You would have heard about it happening through Asia. Now, in 2015, there was an instance that took place that really changed history for the US. The US was moving in that direction, free range. Avian influenza came through. I believe it was transmitted by migratory birds. It killed 44 million layer hens. It pretty much decimated, well, I mean, they have 305 million, but it decimated more than twice our population of hens. So that was a real game changer. So back onto us as an industry. We are quite disjointed. The Australian egg industry is quite disjointed. We've really struggled to get our message together to communicate back to customers. It's not just the egg industry. I think agriculture in general has really struggled with communicating, getting directly to our customers. Our messages have often been boycotted. We've never been really good at it, and we need to get better. So, I've got it right now. Awesome. In discussions with some Victorian farmers in 2015, we decided that we had this discussion. So we have this major disconnect with our customers. We want to work out a way to get through to them. So we produced this documentary, Farm Life Australia. Now we did that, it was pretty much on a budget, went out Foxtel nationally and was extremely well received. Now this little thing that we did was just a little fun project that we did, but it was what got me invited to become part of to apply for the Nuffield program, which I was lucky enough to, after getting through what I will say was an extremely exhaustive process, was lucky enough to be awarded it. So when I was awarded it, basically I sat down and thought, okay, well, what can I bring back to our industry from this? This is great. I've got this opportunity to travel, see the world, blah, 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 blah. It's a bit of a junket if you don't actually turn it into something, if you don't bring back something. So pretty much what I wanted to look at was what challenges were overseas producers facing? Were they similar to the ones we were facing? What were they doing about them? Is there anything that we could learn from what's happened overseas? So as part of my travel, I visited Brazil, Chile, America, Canada, Netherlands, Italy, UK and Singapore. The first country that I really studied in general was the Netherlands. Now, the Netherlands, as I'm sure most of you would be aware, is a crazily intensive producer of all different sorts of foods, but in particular for us, it's eggs. Okay, so to give you an idea, a bit of perspective, now Australia, just lock this number away in your head, Australia has 19 million layer hens. The Netherlands has close to 40 million layer hens in a space not even as big as Tasmania. I hope that's sinking in. It's pretty crazy. Like they're extremely, so they do this with meat. They do this with other products. It's they're very efficient at what they do. Over the years, the animal welfare movement in the Netherlands has really got traction, now to the point where they have seats in Parliament held by the Animal Party. It's given them a great deal of power. So really, it's pretty much the industry direction is being set by the Animal Party. Conventional cage system has been banned in the Netherlands. So it's pretty much got to the point where 94% of their egg production is produced in colony cages or cage-free barn production. Okay, so aside from what I'm telling you about the scale of egg production, the Netherlands, despite its geographic limitations, being smaller than Tassie, is one of the biggest food exporters to the whole of the EU. So what that shows you is amazing efficiency in everything they do. A side note to agriculture that we could probably learn from as a country, on the back of the environmental movement that's taken place in the Netherlands, they've grown their renewable power capacity to the point where they power themselves with renewable power, and they now have got to the point where they're exporting power to neighbouring Germany. Whereas we kind of go the other way. We don't even have enough non-renewable power to keep things going. So the Netherlands was a real eye-opener. The next country that I moved to, sorry, that's a Thomason farm in the Netherlands. The next country that I moved to study in depth was America. Now, America I'll just start with this, it was an absolute nightmare to get farm visits. Of the 12 farm visits that I had booked, I think I was able to get to about 4 or 5 of them. Biosecurity is a major ordeal over there. Now, I mentioned before about the avian influenza. They're very nervous because it's reportable. If anyone has avian influenza anywhere, they pretty much just shut the borders. They won't let anyone in or out of farms. So, some Nuffield scholar who's probably been traipsing all over the country and egg farms and stuff, he's the first guy to get hoofed off. So it made it very difficult. But I was very lucky that Cal-Maine Foods were really open-minded and fantastic and allowed me onto a lot of their sites. Now, Cal-Maine Foods, again, industry perspective, that number, 19 million Australian birds. Cal-Maine Foods, one producer in America, has 38 million birds. It's pretty nutty when you look at the scale of it. 22 sites, as I said, 38 million birds. Absolutely nutty perspective. They're real, like all of the egg farms pretty much in America are on a scale that is unheard of to us. Okay, as a result of the avian influenza that I mentioned a while ago, or I mentioned earlier in the presentation, free range, or as they call it, pastured production, has got to the point where it's only 3% of egg production now. So it's really wound back in because of the scare. Cal-Maine Foods also have some issues American egg producers also have some issues in that there's a very, very litigious culture in America. One of the examples that Will Webb, the guy up there, gave me was that, okay, with us, you may get sued if you release a product and it poisons someone. There, it's not just the end customers that are litigating against each other, it's people in the supply chain are suing each other. It's got to the point where litigation has got out of control. He told me the figure based on their turnover, the money that they were spending in legal fees and settlements, and it was actually budgeted for in their budget. It's unbelievable. It scares me to think that we could even get close to that. Okay, now Cal-Maine Foods is transitioning from traditional cages to barn systems. They're doing it very slowly. As time and money allows, and obviously as they amortise down the cage infrastructure that they've got. All right, where are we? From there, I moved to the UK. Now, the UK has banned conventional cage systems altogether and produces its eggs in culinary or barn systems. Now, this move's created major issues for egg producers, as neighbouring countries such as France and Italy still use conventional cages and have lower compliance requirements. This has kept pressure on the margins of UK producers because it's pretty easy to ship eggs across the border. So when you're putting compliance costs and conditions on yourself and allowing your neighbours to do it a different way and send product in, it's created major issues. So it's really, they've had to do something. What the British have done is put their own compliance standards in place called the British Lion. They've done it in eggs, they've done it in beef, they've done it in all sorts of products. And what it is basically a set of standards that are audited against. And pretty much they've built the marketing of that brand to the point where customers will not buy products without the British Lion emblem. And basically they audit it so much that they will, if people aren't doing the right thing or anything's going on, they will pull it, and customers will not buy a product that doesn't have it. So basically that's been their way of mitigating against all the imports that are coming in from other countries with lower compliance costs. I've only quickly touched on the different countries. One thing I did want to look at was the common challenges faced by the world egg producers. So it doesn't take a genius to work out. Cage farmers are working with rapidly eroding social license. It's happening very, very quickly. Retail models are becoming more and more rationalised, which concentrates more power to fewer parties, which leads to basically our customers having more influence over us. Biosecurity, I've touched on it. Avian influenza has been around for a long time, but the recently discovered HN51, it's not only catastrophic to birds, but it's also been known to cause death in human beings. This has been a bit of a game changer for the industry. So to give you an idea, outbreaks have taken place. Now, as I said before, it's transmitted by birds, by wild birds. And outbreaks have taken place: South Korea, US, Netherlands, Germany, Denmark, India, Israel, Russia, Iran, China, and Vietnam, and many more. I did see a presentation at the University of, I can't even say it, Guelph? Anyone? Canada? No? Guelph or Gulf, whatever it is. Basically where they'd mapped out the paths of the migratory birds, and I haven't got this on my presentation, but they pretty much go down like that. Other way around, Australia being on the other side, down the east coast of Australia, across the south of Australia, and up the west. So we're in the path, so unfortunately at some point it will happen to us. Another challenge that's happened across the world that was quite, it's happening everywhere, is a movement away from traditional and predictable leadership models to disruptor-based models. Now, I mean, I don't need to sort of say too much. You've got, as I mentioned, the Animal Welfare Party have seats in the Netherlands Parliament. So what this basically has done to farmers and producers, whereas in the past we could pretty much look at what was going to happen politically. You look at leaders like Trump and even Emmanuel Macron, some of these guys that are less conventional, you don't really know what they're going to do. So it puts a lot of uncertainty around future investment. Okay, I'll just quickly jump on, because I've probably waffled a bit too much. Opportunities for Australian producers. Biggest one, barn cage free. We must create a market for this product. Free-range production is nearly half of Australia's production, and if avian influenza does break out here, we need a safe option as cages disappear. Australia's food retail model has almost moved to a duopolistic, oligopolistic model, if only I could say it. This has given very, very few parties a lot of say over how we farm and what we do it as an industry. We are all about giving consumers choice, but we also need to make sure that our consumers are presented a true picture of what they're buying by us, not by interest groups or anyone else. We need to reconnect with customers. Now, this means for most of us as farmers who are not that sure about social media, we need to get more au fait with social media. It's a very, very quick way to reach a lot of people, and we need to start doing it because our foes and adversaries are doing it. I'm saying that broadly across all protein production groups. My final recommendation is that we really, really need to put some teeth behind our compliance systems. In Australia, we're great at putting everyone under compliance systems, and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. There's no teeth behind those compliance systems. There are people blatantly flouting these compliance systems, and we need to put some teeth behind it. Actually, I have one more really quickly. We need to look at attracting new minds, progressive thinking, just fresh people into our industry. Our industry is led by farmers, which is wonderful because farmers are great, but farmers will not market well, they will not communicate with customers well, and they will not set the communication lines with customers well. Yes, we have bodies to do that, but it's everyone's responsibility. The hook's about to come on and pull me off, so I'm going to finish up there. Thank you very much, everyone.